Hello, this is Amy at Amy's Free Motion Quilting Adventures, and I'm going to do some cross-hatching today using long arm ruler and my Janome Free Motion Quilting Foot Set with the ruler toe added. And to show you, I know there are a lot of videos out there on doing cross-hatching, and they're all pretty great. But the trick is, when you're doing it, of course, not to keep hitting your camera. Sorry about that. Let me try to get it up a little higher. Of course, you do a nice straight row of stitching. I'm using that ruler to just guide my line. And you can go back and forth and you crisscross. But the trick is when you have an applique. Obviously, you can't just stitch through your applique, you have to stitch around it. What I'm going to do is I am actually going to stitch around this applique very closely. And this gives me what I call a ditch to travel around as I work. It's like a fence around your applique. I am using very dark blue thread. Now this is the line. It's a 45-degree line because I'm doing cross-hatching at a 45-degree angle to my my block. This is the line that is the continuation past that applique. I am not going to come back out this way. I'm going to continue around, because if I just did it that way, continuing every line after detouring around my applique, get a lot of heavy thread buildup around that applique, and it would not be as attractive. And you would do this in a matching thread to your background or whatever you're using for your cross-hatching. Typically you would not use this dark thread on white fabric. Now I've just passed that first cross-hatching line, and I'm going to go on past it just a little bit more. So I'm backtracking over that line that I just stitched around my flower. And I'm going to work my block to where I need it so I can use that line to make my next row of stitching. And I've hit the camera again. Sorry about that. Line up my etched line on my ruler with my previous line of stitching, and then back out I go. Backtracking along the edge of my block, trying to stay right on top of the previous line of stitching. Line up my ruler, that etched line. And looking through these 1/4 inch thick rulers is a little bit like, I say, looking at a stick in a pond. You get some refraction of the light. You know, the water of a pond would refract the light, and so when you're looking through the ruler, that acrylic kind of refracts it, so sometimes you're not lined right up on that etching line, if that makes sense. But you just get as close as you can. Now I've hit my flower, and I'm just going to go ahead and bump around this petal, following that little ditched line till I get to where that line would have come out, because it's just the edge of my flower. And I need to make sure I'm lined up well, because the eye really likes to see a nice straight line. So if you get a little off, it's going to show. Now I can either backtrack backwards, which will get me filling in this space in the corner of my block. But since I'm kind of showing you how to quilt around applique, I'm going to go ahead and go forward And this is just a little piece, so I'm going to turn it just a little bit to line up my stitching. Oh, I've got a little something going on in my thread. Let's see if I can continue, if I'm going to have to reshoot this whole video. Got a snarl in my thread. Anyway, so I'm lining back up using that previous line of stitching, and I can tell from where I started around that flower it was a little bit off. So I'm just going to try to line it back up just a little bit more. Let's see if that snarl of thread stitches out or if I'm going to have to stop. So this line I'm stitching right now should line up with my second line of stitching when I went around the flower. Let's see here. It lines up pretty well. It would be with this line here. Now I've got my ruler on the line next to it. I can't put it over here. That would be crooked. It's a 1/4 of an inch away because the diameter of my foot is a 1/4 of an inch from the needle. Well, not diameter. It's a 1/2 inch diameter, which puts the needle a 1/4 of an inch in. And I'm just going to follow back out around that stitching that I did around that flower, staying right on top of it as best as I am able. That brings me to that other marked diagonal line that I had put on here earlier. There it is. Can you see that? I'm going to come right back out. Stitching around the edge. Back up. Flower again. Stitching down and around. Now I probably could have to complete the illusion of this flower, the stitching, the cross hatching going behind the flower. I should probably zigzag right over here, not zigzag, but stitch right back over between those two petals. Continue my line. Stop right there. Get it lined up just right. Coming back out. Back up on the stitching line. This is like my block line. Now my next line of stitching is going to miss the flower completely. I'm going to move my ruler. This is kind of a short ruler. I think it's an 8-inch ruler. I'll have to check. I believe it's an 8-inch ruler. And we've missed the flower, so I slid my ruler down so I can get all the way across this block. If this is a 12-inch block, I would have to shift my ruler and reposition. And you see this open space between here and here. That is where we hit our flower and went back out on the other side. So we do need to fill that back in. I'm going to go ahead and finish out this corner before I go back in that way. Now this goes a lot faster now that you don't have anything in the middle to go around. I don't want to go too fast. there can be that tendency to go very fast because you're not trying to do a design, you're just pushing along the edge of that ruler. So your stitches can get quite large if you're not careful. This is the straight ruler from Accents and Design. It's an 8-inch ruler. It's a great starter ruler if you can only choose 1 or 2 rulers. I like this ruler. I also like her curved rulers. I think a good straight ruler and a good curved ruler are 2 rulers to get if you can only get 2 rulers. It'll really help you do a bunch of different techniques. And on my blog, Amy's Free Motion Quilting Adventures, which is on the internet, freemotionquiltingadventures.blogspot.com. We're doing a giveaway. We're doing a series on quilting with rulers for the month of May. That is the year 2014. And we're doing a giveaway of a set of curved rulers from Carol Olson at Accents and Design. She's been generous enough to provide those for a giveaway. Great rulers. Especially for doing this work on a domestic machine. It's got, this is a strip of Velcro underneath it that helps keep the ruler in place. And I've gotten all the way out to the end of my corner. And I'm going to just go ahead and stitch my next line of stitching. I think I'm going to go ahead and place it over here just to make sure I get it good and perpendicular. I don't want to make any wonky cross-hatching today. I'm being very careful with the placement of my ruler right at the moment because I'm going past the screw that holds the needle in right here with these pegs, and if you go straight back, I'm going to run right into them. So just being careful to not do that. Going back around here. Lining up. I went a little too far. Come back. Just 1 stitch worth. Lining up my ruler. Over, and I'm going to end up really close to where I need to fill in some of those other lines. So just see, I'm going to fill in these extra lines. There's my flower. Going over here. Oh, I'm going to miss it completely. Hey, that works. Well, let me make sure I line up. Now, the trick is kind of lining it up behind the foot. The visibility is not the greatest. I want to make sure that since this is a shorter ruler that I can get all the way across and still have a good straight line. And these are straight lines. Your eyeball is going to follow that line of stitching. And if that line of stitching has a little spot that isn't straight, you're going to notice it really fast. Yeah. Let's see where I want to go next. I really would like to go ahead and fill out that area where I didn't put those other lines. Just go on over here. Place my ruler back in. Now you can also use the ruler to help you go along this ditch line if you need a little guidance for your backtracking. Get those stitches all lined up nice and neat. pressing down too hard. If I do that, I won't be able to move my piece very well. Yeah, I've hit that flower. What I'm going to do is I want to go ahead and fill this spot back in. So I'm just going to go back around the flower again. There we go. Lining up. And I'm just kind of checking with the very, you can't see it here, but back here, that very tail end of my ruler, lining up all the way across that flower to make the line as straight, and I think it looked like the lines were here, the lines of stitching were here before the flower was. There we go. And back up. My flower, and that's pretty uniform. Maybe not perfect, but if this was done in a matching thread to the white, it would look pretty darn great. Going around, lining back up. Need to come back just a little bit. And again, this is a Janome machine, and Janome has this great free motion quilting foot set. It is the ankle part here, and then these toes are interchangeable. The regular foot set comes with a closed toe, open toe, and an echo quilting foot. It's kind of clear plastic, but you can add this ruler toe, which is designed for a 1500, a Janome 1500 machine, to be used like a long arm machine in a frame. But what I discovered is that you can use that ruler toe on a stationary machine, like I'm doing here. And it really just opens up a whole lot of great possibilities. And let's see. I'm going to go back around the flower again. I'm going to go around until I get to the next place I need to continue these lines back in this corner. I like to keep all the lines flowing in one direction, well, from one area as much as I can, because if I end up filling some of these lines in, which I could do, I could fill in these lines and then work my way back over to these stitches. If I don't get everything lined up just right, you're going to see it a lot more noticeably. So just lining up my ruler. Too far. Back. Alright, I know this is a very long video, but there's just no getting around really showing what it takes to crosshatch around an applique without taking a while. So, back up, and you can see I'm getting quite a bit of thread buildup now. But really, that's what it takes to go around these things. When you use a lighter thread that matches, you're not going to see it as much, but it does get a little buildup. The finer the thread you use, the less buildup you'll see. The fewer times you go around, the better. Certainly, certain shapes work out better where you don't have to go around quite as much. cross-hatching behind an applique block just looks fabulous. And it's a great traditional design for traditional style quilts. Now, if you see my ruler here, I got my line lined up pretty good here. It is not lined up good here, and that's because we stitched these two lines separately. And so if I move my ruler and then just guide it off of here, I'm going to have a big zigzag. So what I'm going to do is keep my ruler on there, just up against my foot, but I'm going to just pivot it the tiniest, littlest bit, so that by the time I get up here, it's closer to that line. And you see I've reached the end of my ruler, so now I'm going to slide down. And yes, if you got out the ruler, you would see right there that it wasn't perfectly spaced. But I think it's pretty good. And without having a design like this done using a computerized machine to do the plotting of the design and the quilting, or even by using an embroidery machine, you're not going to get perfection, but you can certainly make fabulous quilts. I don't know about you, but I'm not striving for perfection. I like it to be close to perfect, but it doesn't always happen, and that's okay. So I'm back up in that open area. I don't have to worry about my applique anymore. And I'm going to stop the video right there. I'm going to cut my threads and just move it over so you can see it. And we've gotten all the way around that flower. I still have to fill in this corner and over here, but none of the rest of my lines are going to come into that flower now. So you can see that that's how you can quilt cross-hatching behind applique, around applique, using a ruler and a ruler toe. And you can certainly do the same thing with marked lines if you like marking lines. I hate marking lines, so I like my ruler. You can even mark the lines and then still use your ruler to follow those lines. Any way you choose to do it, whatever works for you is great. This is what works for me. Bye-bye. Come see the blog, freemotionquiltingadventures.blogspot.com. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.